So you're thinking of moving to Salida, Colorado? Well, in this video, I'm gonna go over 5 must-dos before you move to Salida, Colorado. And you're definitely gonna wanna stick around into the end because I'm gonna go over an item that is new and recently updated. So you're definitely gonna want to know more information about that. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you're the first to know when new informative videos about Salida and the real estate market here become available. My name is Monica McCarthy, a realtor that specializes in Salida, Colorado and surrounding areas. And I get calls all the time from people just like you looking to move here. So whether you're thinking of moving here in a few weeks or a few months, please reach out to me. All of my contact information is below and we can schedule a time to chat and I can help you make a smooth transition to the Salida, Colorado area. Okay, let's talk about 5 must-dos before you move to Salida, Colorado. Number 1, decide how close to downtown you want to be. So if you're at all familiar with Salida, Colorado, we are a quaint rural mountain community in the heart of Colorado, and the community itself is centered around a historic downtown area, and the primary spot is essentially F Street and First Street, and also kind of along the river. So that's kind of the heart of town, and respectively, that is the most popular area to be. It's a very bikeable, very walkable town in that main downtown center. So homes closer to the center of downtown tend to be on a higher price per square foot. Now, it's a hodgepodge of different homes. There's a lot of older homes in that area, so you're often going to have homes that are on smaller lots and might need some work, but there's also some new homes in the area. But ultimately speaking, homes closer to downtown are gonna be more expensive. So if you're thinking of moving here, a good way to figure out what you might want, or to at least start thinking about, is how close to downtown do you want to be? How important is it to you to have that bikeability, that walkability, and being close to downtown? You can find opportunities that are further out of town, and I actually have a video talking about where to live in Salida, Colorado, where I go into more detail of surrounding neighborhoods of the downtown area. And then also we have towns surrounding Salida. There's Poncha Springs, there's Nathrop, there's Howard to the east, and there's also Buena Vista further north. And I have videos about all of those places as well if you want to get, more in depth of the pros and cons of those places. But ultimately, you can choose options that are further out of Salida that have their pros and cons, but are very often less expensive, and you can often have more space between neighbors and often a larger home for this comparable price point. I recently had a client who really wanted to be close to downtown Salida, but ultimately chose house over location because the perfect house for that person was actually found further out of Salida, and certainly at the price point they were looking in, and they decided just to, compromise on that and choose something that was further out of town. So that's one thing to consider. How close to downtown do you want to be? Okay, number 2. Familiarize yourself with the weather. We are in the mountains, but it's also the banana belt, which means we have this warm air coming through that actually makes it to where for our elevation, it's not very cold. Now, it's colder than states that aren't in the mountains, but for the elevation that we're at, it's not very cold, and snow tends to melt pretty quickly. We get quite a bit of sun. So even we do get snowy days, but the snow doesn't often stay on the ground very long. However, if you are coming from a place that you're not used to snow, you're not used to wind, because part of the thing about this area is we're in a valley. So in certain times of the year, like the springtime, for example, we can have some pretty windy days. So if you've only been here in the summer, perhaps come other seasons and get a feel for what it's like those other times of year. I come from the South, and I didn't know if I'd be able to handle the mountains, but it's quite lovely, and we have that sun. So even when it snows, the sun really helps with that. But our falls here are gorgeous. We've got the colors. It's absolutely amazing. But there are some blustery days. So if you're planning on living here year round, then I recommend familiarizing yourself with the weather here and just making sure it's something that works for you. Or if you're planning on coming here and it's just like a second seasonal home for you, then maybe it's not as big of a deal. But that is certainly a consideration I suggest. Okay, number 3, learn the market. So this one's obvious. If you are planning on moving somewhere or particularly buying somewhere, you obviously are probably already looking online. That might be how you found this video, but you want to know what's going on in the market there. So there's a few suggestions I have to help answer this question besides just kind of searching on those main sites and looking at homes. I recommend getting on to my monthly market updates. I do a market update video on a monthly basis so you can get a good idea of what's happening in the market here, and I email those out regularly. And so if that's something you're interested in, be sure and send me an email to get signed up for my monthly market newsletter. And also get on a customized property alert here. You can do that by speaking to a local realtor like myself and talking about what it is that you're specifically interested in here. And so that way you can get a feel for what kind of homes can you get where. So, I mentioned already how close do you want to be to downtown, but what are your other options and what do those look like? And, what kinds of homes would that be? What kind of space do you have between neighbors? What are the ages of the homes in those areas? And so those are all considerations. There might be some properties that you didn't even know were an option out here. And so that's just a really good way to just start learning the market. So I recommend getting signed up for monthly market updates and also getting on customized property alerts so you can really start to learn the market here. And I'd be happy to help you with both of those things. Just shoot me an email. Okay, number 4, talk to a local lender and get really dialed in on your financial situation and get a pre-approval letter. So this is true if you're buying real estate anywhere, but I definitely recommend doing it if you're planning on buying within the next year. I think a lot of people start looking at homes first and then will often scramble, especially if they find that house and they think, oh, I can probably afford that, and maybe do a little online calculator and just make some estimates. But it's significantly more beneficial for you if you actually speak to somebody who can pull your credit and get a good feel for your situation, and they can often identify if there's any issues with your credit. They can give you a good idea of what your maximum amount that you can afford is for a home, and then also an idea of what that monthly mortgage payment will be. So the monthly mortgage is obviously what you're budgeting for on a monthly basis, but it might be higher. You might be qualified to buy a house higher than what you actually want to spend. You don't want to end up being in a home that the majority of your money is going towards your home and you don't have the discretionary income you want. So get a feel for both what you're qualified for and then also what you're comfortable paying on a monthly basis. And so to understand all the differences of that, do you need to save up for a certain down payment? There's a lot of nuances to the loan process. And so speaking with a professional who can help you get dialed in on your options is just a really good place to be. So when you are looking for those homes, you're looking at a price point that works for you and you already know what you can afford and what you actually want to be paying, and you can let your realtor know about that. Okay, and number 5, get connected with a local realtor. And so the reason why I pointed this out as something that's new is there was a recent settlement through NAR. I actually talk a lot more about this in a video that I explain all of the nuances of that. But ultimately, one of the requirements of that settlement is that before you see a home that's listed on the multiple listing service, you need to form a relationship with that realtor before they can show it to you. And so the way many people have bought homes before is they start looking at homes online and then they just reach out to whomever to show it to them kind of as an afterthought. And sometimes it's the person you're aligned with in that random situation is great, and sometimes that's not the case, or they're just not a good fit for you. And because you have to form a relationship with them before you see that house, it matters more who the person is that's showing you that house. So take the time to do the research ahead of time and start looking at local realtors like you would houses, and get a relationship formed early in the process. So when the house that you do like becomes available, you already are working with somebody that you trust, that knows your situation, and that you know will be a good advocate for you to buy that property. So I highly recommend researching local realtors and connecting with them ahead of time and forming that relationship before you are really seriously looking at houses in an area. And so those are my top 5 must-dos before you buy a property in Salida, Colorado. My name is Monica McCarthy, a realtor that specializes here. And so if you are interested in chatting with me about whether or not I'd be a good fit for you in your home search here, please reach out to me. Let's schedule a time to chat. I'd be happy to be a resource for you in the Salida, Colorado area. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your time, and have a wonderful day.